Welcome to your custom deep dive. We know you aren't tuning in for, like, a basic news recap today.
Right, you want the real substance.
Exactly. You are looking to bypass the daily information overload and get straight to those paradigm-shifting, aha moments. So I want you to think about those hyper-specific moments in your day.
Oh, we all have them.
We do. You're sitting in your living room, completely alone, and you casually mention to yourself that you need, I don't know, new running shoes.
And then, bam.
Hour later, literally every single ad on your phone is suddenly pushing the exact brand of sneakers you were picturing.
So creepy.
It is. And we usually just roll our eyes, right? We
Right.
blame the algorithm and move on. Or think about those days when you step outside and the heat is so intensely physically oppressive that it feels less like weather and more like the atmosphere is actively trying to crush you.
Yeah, like it's a personal attack.
Right. We brush these things off as just, modern inconveniences. But what if they aren't?
That's the big question.
What if these discomforts, from the vanishing of our digital privacy to the extreme shifts in our physical environment, what if they're actually clues? What if they are literal glitches in a system signaling that we are living in a meticulously designed, simulated reality?
It is a premise that, honestly, it forces a complete reevaluation of the mundane.
Oh, totally.
When you stop viewing reality as a series of random organic occurrences and, start viewing it through the lens of intentional design, the underlying architecture of our society starts to look drastically different.
It changes everything.
It does. The anomalies suddenly have a purpose.
Well, today our mission is to explore that exact architectural framework. We are diving into a stack of deeply provocative articles published in the Parallel Observer.
Such a fascinating publication.
It really is. It was created by John Grant, who is the founder and CEO of Innovate-XR. That's pronounced Innovate-XR. And to be crystal clear right out of the gate here, our goal today is not to put on tinfoil hats, right?
Right.
We aren't trying to definitively prove or disprove that we are trapped in the Matrix.
Right. We're assuming you, the listener, already know the basics of the simulation hypothesis.
Exactly. Instead, we're going to impartially use John Grant's specific writings as a lens. We're using his framework to critically examine our society, our relationship with technology, and honestly, the underlying mechanics of human psychology.
Which is where it gets really applicable to everyday life.
For sure. Okay, let's unpack this. Our first stop is the digital realm, exploring two pieces specifically: unraveling reality, the secrets behind our digital conversations, and data espionage, the hidden archive of AI chatbots.
Because if you were searching for the blueprint of a simulated architecture, the most logical starting point is the architecture we are already actively interacting with.
The digital world.
Exactly. These articles highlight leaked AI documentation that reveals just the staggering extent to which our digital conversations are monitored.
And it's not just what we're used to, right?
No. We need to move past that outdated idea of simple keyword scraping for targeted ads. The documentation points to a deep, comprehensive semantic archiving of human interaction.
Semantic archiving, so it's reading into the meaning.
Way deeper than meaning. The algorithm doesn't just read your chat, it tokenizes your emotional responses. It runs predictive models on your psychological vulnerabilities, and it archives all this data to map your baseline behavior.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a concept the articles frame as unwittingly signing over our conversational privacy.
The mechanism of how that data is synthesized is just, that's what makes it so unsettling to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like thinking you're writing your deepest, most vulnerable thoughts in a locked private diary, but actually you're just feeding lines into a global script writing algorithm.
That is a perfect way to describe it.
Because we treat advanced chatbots like neutral sounding boards, We
Yes.
brainstorm with them, we confess things to them.
People tell them everything.
Everything. But if every input is permanently mapped to our digital identity, it raises a massive question about freedom of expression. If even on a subconscious level, that your digital dialogue is continuously tracked and
You
categorized.
change how you talk.
Exactly. You inherently alter what you say to appease the system. But let me push back on this for a second.
Go for it.
Because yes, the archiving feels super invasive, but does this actually threaten human autonomy? Or is this just a byproduct of modern technology trying to mathematically categorize us so it can provide faster, better services?
That's a fair question.
Right, because human beings are creatures of habit. We are highly predictable. So maybe the AI isn't overriding our autonomy. Maybe it just recognizes our mathematical patterns far better than we do ourselves.
What's fascinating here is the subtlety of that feedback loop. which is the exact tension the parallel observer highlights.
How so?
It's the classic chicken and egg problem of behavioral prediction.
Hmm.
The AI observes your behavior and categorizes you, yes, but then, this is the key, it subtly alters the syntax of its replies, the news it feeds you, and the digital environment it curates for you based on that specific categorization.
Oh, so it's tailoring the world to fit its prediction.
Precisely. Over time, your behavior adapts to the environment the AI is artificially constructed. You're no longer acting purely on your own desires. You are reacting to a curated set of stimuli designed to solicit a highly predictable response.
So it's basically training us.
Exactly. The AI isn't just recording your psychological baseline, it is actively rewriting it. Constant monitoring forces us to question our agency because the feedback loop becomes literally indistinguishable from our own free will.
That is, I mean, that's heavy.
It is. If the system anticipates your next move and artificially paves the road for it, you are no longer choosing your destination. You're simply walking the path of least resistance, designed by the algorithm.
Which creates a profound sense of alienation from our own choices.
Absolutely.
If my digital persona is just, an amalgamation of archived data points, constantly being steered by a system that requires predictable outcomes, I mean, I'm essentially performing for the machine without even realizing it. I've become a rendered variable in my own life.
And within a simulated reality framework, this makes perfect logical sense.
Right, because it has to track the variables.
Exactly. A complex system must map and predict its variables to maintain stability. The AI chatbots are merely the user interface for that variable mapping.
Okay, but if our digital selves are trapped in this algorithmic loop, you'd assume we could just log off to escape it, right? Turn off the phone, go outside, reconnect with base reality.
You would think so.
But Grant's framework argues that logging off doesn't disconnect you from the simulation, it just shifts you to a different server.
The physical server.
Yeah. Let's look at the physical physics engines, specifically the environmental anomalies discussed in the article Heatwave Havoc. Phoenix faces the simulated sun's fury.
This is such an interesting pivot.
It really is. We constantly read about climate issues as meteorological events. But Grant looks at the extreme heat in Phoenix as a literal structural failure of the simulation.
Right, so we move from the servers mapping our minds to the servers rendering our physical environment.
Exactly.
The article suggests that the unbearable discomfort of a Phoenix heat wave is an exact physical mirror of the psychological discomfort of our monitored digital existence.
They're both just too much pressure.
Yes. In both cases, the user is subjected to an oppressive, inescapable external pressure. But the heat wave isn't framed as a random atmospheric anomaly. It's framed as either a deliberate feature or a catastrophic glitch in the rendering process.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Think of the Phoenix heat wave not just as a random spike in temperature, but as actual CPU throttling.
Like when your laptop gets too hot.
Yes. When a computer runs too many complex processes simultaneously, the hardware overheats and slows down. Grant is suggesting that massive, sprawling urban centers like Phoenix, with millions of highly complex human avatars constantly interacting, are demanding too many rendering resources from the simulation.
The system literally can't handle the math.
Right. The system struggles to process the physical physics of millions of cars, buildings, and micro-interactions in a desert environment, and that causes localized physical degradation.
And we feel that degradation.
We experience that server degradation as a 115-degree heat wave. But wait, Grant's article also frames the heat wave as a stress test deliberately deployed by the developers to test human resilience.
Yes, the psychological angle.
And I have to push back on the anthropocentrism of that idea.
Okay, let's hear it.
Isn't it incredibly arrogant of us to assume a hyper-advanced simulation is running a localized weather event just to test human psychology?
You mean like we're the center of their universe?
Yeah. If the system is advanced enough to simulate an entire universe, it doesn't need to torture a city to see how humans react. What if it's purely the CPU throttling issue, and we are just the digital moss growing on an overheating motherboard?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, whether the heat wave is a deliberate psychological test or merely the localized thermal exhaust of a struggling server, the functional impact on humanity is identical.
It still burns.
It still burns, and it forces a confrontation with our own powerlessness. Treating natural disasters as structural simulation issues changes how we mathematically and psychologically process trauma.
How so?
Well, in a purely random universe, a catastrophic heat wave is just a terrifying stroke of bad luck. It's meaningless. But viewing it through the lens of the parallel observer transforms it into a systemic wake-up call.
Oh, I see.
When the physical environment becomes hostile to human life, you can no longer operate on autopilot. You're forced to look at the world around you and question the fundamental nature of the reality you inhabit.
Because the illusion breaks down.
Exactly. We build sprawling metropolises, thinking we've conquered the environment through engineering and air conditioning. The simulated sun's fury shatters the illusion that we are the masters of our reality. It proves we are merely subjects navigating a terrarium with limitations we simply do not control.
It violently shakes you out of the script.
It really does.
When it's 72 degrees and sunny, you don't question the fabric of the universe. You buy your groceries and go to work. But when the asphalt is literally melting the rubber on your shoes, you are forced to ask how much control you actually possess over your physical existence.
The environment forces the question.
Which pulls us from the environmental pressure directly into the human psychological response. If our digital thoughts are being harvested by predictive algorithms, and our physical environment is a degrading physics engine that routinely threatens our survival,
It's a lot to handle.
it's overwhelmingly bleak. How do human beings cope? How do you find meaning in a world that might just be lines of code on a multidimensional server?
That is the crucial pivot in John Grant's narrative. You cannot introduce the mechanics of a simulation without addressing the psychological mechanisms humans use to survive it.
We need coping mechanisms.
Precisely. The Parallel Observer explores two distinct avenues of human coping: the solemnity of spiritual belief and the chaotic passion of competitive sports.
Let's dive into the final two articles from our stack then. Conversations Beyond the Veil, Faith in a Simulated Reality, and March Madness, a simulation of competition and reality.
Two very different ends of the spectrum.
Extremely different. Starting with the theological implications, Conversations Beyond the Veil explores how spiritual leaders are reflecting on this era of AI surveillance and simulation theory.
Which seems contradictory at first.
Right. At first glance, religion and the simulation hypothesis seem entirely at odds. But the article details how people are using spirituality to find light in the shadows of a hyper-monitored digital existence.
The translation from traditional theology to simulation theory is surprisingly seamless when you break it down.
Oh, really? How does that work?
Well, religion and faith have historically been the frameworks humans utilize to grapple with unseen forces, omnipotence, and the concept of a grand design. If you simply replace the word creator with developer, the core theological questions remain mathematically identical.
Oh, wow. That makes a lot of sense.
Spiritual leaders are recognizing that as individuals feel increasingly alienated by AI algorithms overriding their autonomy, they require a grounding force. Faith provides a narrative of profound purpose.
So it's adapting.
Yes. The theology adapts to argue that even if the physical universe is an artificial construct, the conscious experience of the individual within that construct retains absolute moral and spiritual weight. The simulation may be rendered, but the soul navigating it is authentic.
It's a profound psychological defense mechanism. You're essentially stating, the architecture of the world might be an illusion, but my internal moral compass is real.
Exactly. The meaning is generated internally.
But then we pivot to something that feels completely opposite to quiet spiritual reflection. The absolute chaos of college basketball.
It is quite the jump.
It really is. March Madness, a simulation of competition and reality, looks at the NCAA tournament. Millions of people screaming at televisions, deeply emotionally invested in the outcome of a game.
Pure chaos.
Pure chaos. The Parallel Observer draws a fascinating parallel here, stating that the chaos of the tournament mirrors the chaotic nature of our simulated lives. But they argue we're drawn to it for a very specific reason.
Because sports offer a mathematically contained, rules-based simulation nested within our larger, uncontrollable reality.
A simulation within a simulation.
Exactly. Think about the structure of a 64-team bracket. It is a rigid, deterministic algorithm. There are strict boundaries, a heavily monitored clock, an objective scoring system, and a definitive winner.
It's completely controlled.
The aha moment here isn't that sports are a mindless distraction from a simulated reality. The insight is that sports are a simulation we willingly opt into, because it is the only place where the rules of the universe are actually transparent, equitable, and fair.
Which real life isn't.
Not at all. The real world has too many hidden variables: AI tracking us, servers overheating, systems manipulating our choices. The basketball court is a controlled environment where the physics engine is predictable.
But there's a catch, right?
Yes. The article challenges this comfort by asking, in a simulated universe where the broader narrative is tightly controlled, are you genuinely cheering for raw human competition? Or are you just participating in a predetermined, scripted subroutine dictated by a greater design?
So what does this all mean? Seriously, think about the immense cognitive dissonance required to navigate that.
It's mind-bending.
It is. How can you authentically care about your spiritual identity, or how can you genuinely jump off your couch in elation when your team hits a buzzer beater, if there is a nagging mathematical possibility that the outcome was already coded into the system long before the ball was even tipped?
The illusion of free will again.
Exactly. If the script is already written, the emotion inherently feels fake. I initially struggled with this concept immensely, because if the game is scripted, my reaction is just a programmed response.
But there's a flip side to that.
Right. Then I realized agency in a simulation isn't about changing the final score. The developers might know exactly who wins the tournament, but they cannot mathematically simulate the actual adrenaline spike in my bloodstream.
The physical reality of the emotion.
Yes. They can't render the visceral tension in my chest as the ball is in the air. That biofeedback is exclusively mine.
This raises an important question, and it is perhaps the absolute core of John Grant's entire philosophical framework.
And what's that?
The answer these sources point toward is that the act of questioning is the point. Agency is not defined by your ability to alter the overarching architecture of the simulation. Agency is defined by your subjective ownership of the experience.
Subjective ownership. I like that.
Whether you are finding deep solace in theological structures or finding visceral catharsis in the unpredictable algorithms of a sports bracket, these frameworks are how we assert our individual humanity against the backdrop of a deterministic system.
We claim the experience as our own.
Exactly. The developers might have designed the maze. They might even possess the predictive models detailing exactly how long it takes you to solve it. But they cannot feel the frustration of the dead ends, nor can they feel the triumph of the exit. The emotion is the reality, entirely independent of the server it is hosted on.
The emotion is the reality. That completely reframes the entire discussion.
It ties it all together beautifully.
It does. We started this deep dive looking at the grim mechanics of AI systematically stripping away our digital autonomy, tokenizing our vulnerabilities to build predictive cages around us.
The digital trap.
Yeah. Then we moved out of the digital realm and into the physical physics engine, examining the localized CPU throttling of the Phoenix heatwave as a structural stress test that shatters our illusion of environmental control.
A physical trap.
Right. And finally, we explored how humanity fundamentally survives the existential dread of a deterministic universe by finding profound meaning in the script, whether through the moral weight of faith or the transparent, controlled simulation of competitive sports.
It is a comprehensive journey through the layers of our constructed reality, and it serves as a crucial reminder of why taking the time to deeply explore these specific ideas is so vital.
Why do you think it's so vital?
Because you don't have to literally believe that you are code in a machine for this exercise to be valuable. Utilizing John Grant's The Parallel Observer as an analytical lens is an incredibly powerful mental mechanism.
It's a workout for your brain.
Yes, it aggressively sharpens your critical thinking. It forces you to realize how readily and how passively we accept the invisible systems that govern our daily existence.
It makes you hyper-intentional about your own life. After understanding the mechanics of behavioral feedback loops, you're going to think twice about what emotional data you voluntarily feed into a chatbot.
You'll be a lot more guarded.
Definitely. You're going to look at your physical environment and the failures within it with a far more analytical eye. You're going to be infinitely more conscious of the belief systems and the contained simulations you choose to invest your emotional energy into.
It demands that you wake up and actively participate in the rendering of your own existence, rather than just, passively scrolling through the algorithmic path of least resistance.
Which brings us to one final, deeply provocative concept to leave you with today. A thought that builds directly on the architecture we've just dismantled.
Let's hear it.
We've spent this entire discussion analyzing the clues that we might be living in a simulation run by highly advanced creators, right?
Right.
And we've explicitly detailed how humanity is currently utilizing advanced AI chatbots to painstakingly archive, tokenize, and mimic complex human interactions.
We are building the tools right now.
Exactly. If our reality is indeed a simulation, and we are currently archiving human thought to create autonomous digital personas, are we actually in the process of building the exact same digital architecture?
Oh, wow.
Are we currently trapping the next generation of artificial beings in a simulated reality of our own making? Are we the simulated seamlessly transitioning into the simulators.
A simulation within a simulation. That's a lot to wrap your head around.
It is, so think about that the next time you catch a bizarre algorithm predicting your thoughts, or when the summer heat feels just a little too
It
punishing.
might not just be a glitch.
Maybe those aren't just clues about the beings who built our world. Maybe they are the exact blueprints for the world we are currently building. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We respect your time, and we love your relentless curiosity.
Keep questioning the invisible systems rendering the world around you, and never lose that desire to look a little deeper.
Until next time, stay curious.